Welcome back to Love, Life, and Legacy, the podcast dedicated to helping you navigate these hypersexualized times of ours. And in today's episode, we have two special guests. We have Andranik and we have Jude, two of our chapter leaders. And we get into a nice, juicy, robust conversation about mediocrity and the dangers of mediocrity on many levels, but how pornography feeds into that, and why we need to really surround ourselves with the right people and the right thoughts, the right environment in order to stay thriving, because that's what we all want at the end of the day. So why don't you join me in welcoming our guests? Have fun, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. Got some special featured guests all the way from, well, if I tell you where they're from, then you know who they are. We got Lithuania. Who's from Lithuania?
Hey.
Anybody?
I am.
Hey. I think genetically they traced all of our ancestors back to Lithuania. It's where the Garden of Eden was. Not really. You guys just got really quiet. It's Africa, not Lithuania. I think we'd all be, I don't know. That's a cold place, isn't it? It's relatively cold out there.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cold. I just came back from Hungary. You know, Hungary was already 15 degrees Celsius. I don't know what it is Fahrenheit. But it's quite warm. It's like springtime for me. And I came back here and it's white everywhere and snowy and cold and wet. Suddenly remembered that I'm in a northern country.
Well, we'll segue from terrible weather to somebody who's in a heat wave, yeah? All the way in the PH. Represent. Jude, welcome.
Yeah, nice to be back. Philippines has been kind of hot. We have two weathers here. We have hot and hotter. So I have pretty thick skin. But recently it's been hotter than usual. Might be the smoking jeepneys and stuff.
Ooh, yeah, that's gnarly. I feel like you have it's hot and wet, and then wet and hot. It's like hot and wet is you get wet because it's so hot, and then also when it's wet, it's also just still hot. So hot and wet and wet and hot. Wet and hot. But the emphasis is on one, not the other. Yeah, so welcome. And so today we're going to talk about settling and not settling, how to not settle, yeah? This topic came about because Andranik, well, do you want to give some context? Do you want to read it? Do you have access to it? I can read it if you want.
Yeah, I can read it.
Okay, you got it. Okay. Lay it on us.
Yeah. Well, basically, it was something that came up as part of an ascent call we had a couple weeks ago or last week. And with the guys that I'm in a group with, we were discussing very big and existential questions. And no, just basically we were talking about boredom, and this conversation about boredom expanded into a broader conversation about how it's important for men to have something interesting in their lives. And I guess I'll read the direct kind of reflection or sum up of that. A man's life can get very difficult when he settles for what he has, not what he wants, for too long. It is greatly beneficial for men to keep working on something, their physical strength, business, hobbies, life of faith, etc., and have milestones in place for measurement of success so that they can feel a sense of achievement and fulfillment. And this is something that we came up with from our conversation, because I think it's quite a universal men's experience, in a sense that we need to occupy ourselves in life with things that create a sense of achievement. And it's all too easy once all kinds of obligations and commitments come into our life to settle for the norm or settle for what is, because okay, there's now I have a wife, a relationship to take care of, and there's a job, and maybe then there's children, and all kinds of things start piling up, and it definitely in many ways can become really hard to stay ambitious or keep a kind of very youthful energy, where the world is your playground and you can freely experiment and try things, work on yourself, even create a basic schedule for yourself that you follow, and that keeps you working on yourself and keeps you improving. So basically that's the base of this conversation. With the guys in my group, we kind of all resonated with that and expressed this, that I feel this in my life. I like, some might feel that they don't even know what they want and they don't even know what to pursue, but they definitely all feel like that's not a good state for them, like not knowing, not working on anything. It creates opportunities for boredom and for just a sense of uselessness or being useless. And that's not a good state to be in, for guys especially.
Yeah, well, I'd say it's not a good state for anybody, but men, when they have that energy built up inside of them, will wreak havoc on their environment. This is one of my best friends growing up had so much creative energy, but he had a really bad environment, so he was just in and out of jail a lot because he was using that energy to destroy his environment, right? And so even a destructive energy can be used constructively. Like I noticed in my boys, right? Every once in a while, they just want to break something, and that's scary to some people. But it's actually, as a part of growth, you have to break a part of the old in order for the new to be recreated, right? It's like the process of death and resurrection. And so all that energy has a place, but if it lies dormant, it festers and it grows and it comes out in ways that you can't control because it's just, you don't even understand it. You just go from, sitting on your couch to doing something really stupid with your life. And it's this destructive energy kind of unleashed. So we need to absolutely be productive, everybody, men and women. But I don't see, like, you can look at the stats. They're very clear, like the violent crimes and the sexual assaults and all, it's like 99% men always, because it's that dominating energy that we have, that if it goes unchecked, we use it in very disturbing ways, like with our fallen nature. So absolutely. Have you noticed something similar, Jude, that if we settle for too long, bad things happen?
Definitely. I think that we were born, or we were coming from God. We were created with some sort of divine drive to really go for greatness, and when that drive is like not really given a time to really get released, I think really decline of man and woman starts. Um, like I've been looking at zoos recently, and I don't enjoy going to zoos because they look so depressed. like
Zoos, like animal zoos. I thought you were saying Zeus,
yes.
the god.
Yeah,
the Greek
Zeus.
god.
I went to the Greek god recently. Zeus. I went to the zoos recently, and the animals are so depressed, and
Yeah.
they were like just sitting there bored, and they eventually would. There are a lot of history in the Philippines where animals would just kill themselves. They stop eating. They hit their head on the like glass
Those
wall
little
and they just
monkeys.
die. Ah, yeah, yeah, Bohol, in Bohol.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the
What are they
tarsier ones,
called?
we
Those
never
little.
had them in the tarsier.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We never had them in any captivities, and they're now almost going extinct because they get so stressed and they kill themselves. They hit
Oh
them.
my
Well,
They're-
God.
so yeah, let's because I was so shocked by this. I was asking when Jude and I we went to Bahal, beautiful place. They were talking about these little monkeys. They're the size of your finger. They're apparently super cute, and they live in captivity now because their environment's under threat due to human activity, and but in captivity they're killing themselves by banging their head because they're not living in a natural state and they can't roam freely, but also uh, they keep them up during the day and they're nocturnal, right? So they're really
Mhm.
stressed out because they're so tired. And so yeah, that's such a crazy point that even in captivity animals they can't use that energy. It's really like a matter of energy expulsion, using that energy well, otherwise it destroys us in a way. So, which you went to a
But
zoo? Is that you
yeah,
recently
and
went to a zoo? Yeah.
yeah, and it was really depressing. And I'm looking at it. What if humans were treated like this? And a voice inside of me said, "What do you mean? We're already doing this.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
already doing this. You know, people
Yeah.
go into their offices with the job they hate. They hate. They could be artists. They could be musicians. They could be writers, and they're stuck in a dead end job, like being depressed. So that kind of
Yeah.
divine drive to push for something greater gets stuck, and it comes out like what you said, comes out in a negative way, in a destructive way. So
Hmm.
in the Philippines, I think that drive kind of gets blocked too much
Sure.
because one example in universities, parents would usually say, "Go, don't go into arts, don't go into music, don't go into."
It's
I think
not
not only in the
safe.
Philippines, I think it's worldwide.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's worldwide. You won't get any good job. You won't get
Yeah.
any
Yeah. Yeah.
good money, and then they would usually go into an office job and they would usually kill themselves, or at the worst, yeah, worst, that's the worst case scenario, like they would kill themselves. But another worst case scenario is they would cheat on their wives, and
Sure. Sure.
just
Sure.
to escape from the life that, or the captivity, the zoo captivity that is their life. They would go into something they wouldn't even dream of doing. So
Hmm.
I think settling for mediocrity, or like, you know, cutting off that divine drive to do greater things, is really dangerous, and it kind of puts us as a species to a decline. So I think that's
Yeah.
really a good insight.
It's so even they've been looking at things like Alzheimer's, and as you get older, this idea that the brain can just stop working at some point used to be, oh, it's just the genetic disorder. Now it really seems like it's a combination of food. There's the food element, but also they've discovered that it's just your brain adapting to its environment. So, oh, so you're not going to use me? I guess I'll just go to sleep, right? And your body just starts turning off. And it's the same with your physical body. If you stop exercising, you get really sick. At older and older, you need to exercise in order to stay cognitively aware. Like, it helps your brain, but it just moves things around. So you're moving, you're just getting things flowing, and we're not meant to be static. It's a very unnatural state because nothing in nature stays still. Everything is moving. They have those time lapse videos of the grass or the ocean or whatever, something that looks still, but everything is always moving. Even a rock has elements of it's energy that's moving, right? So to be And in the divine principle, it says that's the one thing that's in our domain of responsibility, which is internal growth. Everything else grows naturally and moves naturally. And if we stop moving, bad things happen. And when you guys were talking, it sounded to me like you either are building up and you're creating a life and it's going outwards step by step. You're building, like, over decades, you're building your financial wealth. You're building your relationship wealth by investing in good relationships. You're investing in your brain, your, all sorts of things that grows over time. Or you're building downward, which is you're digging yourself into a deeper and deeper hole of bad decisions, and mediocrity is kind of like slowly digging a hole and you don't even know. It's like quicksand, I guess, where you don't even recognize that you're in it until you're kind of way too deep. Because we were actually, as a core staff, just meeting today about why don't we have way more people joining our programs to get out of the hole because they're stuck with porn, or they have some bad thing in their life that they want to get rid of. And we have way less people. It's hard to convince people to join our program who aren't struggling yet. Like, hey, we have this new marriage course. It's called Radiant. Why don't you join it now so that in 10 years you could be like the best, happiest couple that you know? And they're like, yeah, but it's not an emergency, so I'll do it later. And this
Definitely. I get that.
is dangerous, because that's a sign, actually. That's a sign of mediocrity. If you don't want to thrive, then it means that you're very comfortable just with status quo. And that's a very dangerous place to be. So why do you guys think that people settle for mediocrity? Why would somebody choose meh over like a life where they are just scraping by, they have just enough, nothing's really, they're not proud of anything in particular of their life, but nothing's terrible. Why do you think people do that to themselves? And do you even think that's a problem? Because that question says, why do people settle for mediocrity? Some people might say that mediocrity is not that bad, right?
Yeah,
Which
and I think this is where we need to thread it carefully, because of course office jobs need to be filled up, and we're not here to hit on office jobs.
Yeah. No.
There's definitely stuff that needs to be done in society and in our cities, certain jobs that aren't desirable. I guess what we're talking more about is the attitude that we're coming at with life, the attitude that we're attacking life with. There's this attitude of settling for what you have, even though you might want more. And there's the attitude of, I want something, I'll get it. I could see this very clearly. Actually, my past year has been a lot about this, about getting out of comfort zones, and about allowing myself to pursue the things that I desire, that I think I really want, not just what I can have. And I'm young. I'm 24 years old. It's exactly the time when last year I was getting my first car. This is something that it became such a big thing, actually. I, as a young male, got the desire to have my own car. It's a thing. You want your own independence. You want to move around. You want to be able to give people a ride. Sometimes it's just the thing that happens. Okay, it's. I think it's very natural. It's very normal. How the amount of obstacles I ran into with this. Like, okay, I want a car. The wife says, why you want a car? It's expensive. Use public transport.
I get that.
The parents say, why do you want a car? You don't understand how expensive it is. You have no idea yet. Like, is public transport not good enough for you? Whatever.
Sure.
There's so many of these things that start like pressing on you. Like, okay, you have this ambition, but there's these voices and there may be voices of reason. They're telling you, no, it's too much. too expensive. It's whatever. You don't understand. You don't know yet. It's gonna be problems for you and whatever.
Yeah.
Luckily, I'm a special kind of what do you say? Not
Special
stupid, but
person.
yeah. Anyway, I really stuck with my gut feeling that I want a car and I'll get a car, and yeah, and last March I got a car. Even though my wife wasn't that supportive of that, and my father, who's like he really knows cars, he really understands. I mean, he's coming from that engineering and mechanics background, and he's like, okay, anyway, I think you don't understand what you're getting yourself into, but since I can't stop you, I'll help you. So with his help, we got this first car. Yeah, it turned out to be, at my budget. What car can you get? You can get a piece of crap that has four wheels and that runs, uh, but that usually causes you quite a few issues and quite a few headaches. Um, but through this experience, I still ended up feeling like, uh, yeah, this was good for me. I got something, I drove it, it broke, we fixed it, it broke again, we fixed it again, it cost a whole lot of money. But through this experience of achieving my dream, achieving my ambition to have my own car, I grew as a person. I became a more ambitious guy who reaffirmed in himself that, like I want something and I can achieve it. And maybe now that I have it for almost a year, I think maybe, yeah, it was actually expensive and I don't know how much I actually needed. But I went through a whole experience of knowing and experimenting and learning that, like all these things. And now I want new things. And I have a like ground level belief in me that I can achieve it. I can, if I really want to, I can make it. And I had this experience that, yeah, there will be people telling me that, no, it's not good, it's not logical, it's expensive, or whatever. I know that I can go past these voices, and that me going for what I believe I want to make in my life, is a net positive. I know I've been rambling for a bit here, but there's this other thing with the whole example here. Um, when we allow ourselves to pursue our dreams, when we allow ourselves to be a bit bold and ambitious in life, it kind of brings out a certain spirit out of us, a spirit of a person who's an achiever, who's a doer, who's an action person. And even sometimes you can make mistakes with that spirit, but it can sometimes, with that ambition, buy a car that ends up costing you a lot and whatever. But you're adopting a personality, or like an identity of a person who's not anymore a settler for just what he has. To answer, like, to come back to that question that you asked, Andrew, I think one thing is definitely the voices around us. A lot of us people are stuck in the same circumstance that maybe we didn't allow ourselves something, or we settled. And I don't know, it's somehow we don't really like it when others achieve what we didn't. I think it's something like that.
Or even on a more kind of friendly level, people just don't like change, and they don't want you to change because they want you to be the person that they want you to be. It's tough for parents to accept that their kids are getting older and can make their own decisions. It's tough for friends. If you were one way, like when I joined the church, I had a friend who's so mad at me. He's like, because he said, you always made fun of God. You like, and now you say you believe in God. Like, you can't do that. And I was like, what? Well, I just didn't know what I didn't know. Like, why can't I change? And he was so angry at me for changing that he still, to this, that was, I don't know, 17 years ago, something like that. He still won't talk to me because he just refuses to accept that I've evolved, that I've changed. And so it comes, some people, it's insecurity because you're going past them, right? Or you're evolving past them, and they can kind of sense like, wait, but then you'll go, and then you won't need me anymore, and it's kind of like this desperate plea to keep you in their grasp. But for other people, it's honestly it's more convenient for them if you don't change, because then they know, like, let's say you go from the shy guy to the quirky guy that everybody's like, wait, can you do that? But you're this thing, and I want you to stay this thing because I can put you in this box. And it kind of not, it's not, I don't believe it has, like, there's evil intent. I think it's just limitations. Their limitations, they want to limit you so that you can all be limited together, right? Well, you're gonna say something, Jude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, that's one factor. That's one
Uh,
factor. I think the voices in the environment really like gives uh makes mediocrity a chance to rise. Especially looking at Asia, when there's a saying in Japan that I forgot it, but if you're different, you're like you don't belong. Uh,
if the nail that
what's
sticks
this?
its head up
Yeah,
gets
yeah, yeah,
smashed by the
Yeah.
hammer.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
the nail thing, and that kind of makes things um a bit a bit easier for the feeling of mediocrity to arise, the feeling of being, yeah, I'll settle for this. But it's looking at the societal level, it's actually really crazy because before, being like mediocre or, yeah, being pretty mid at something isn't really looked upon as something as acceptable. I was watching Amadeus. If you guys
That's
watched it, it's
such a
about,
good movie. Yeah,
yeah, it's okay. So that on the last scene, the Salieri says,
yeah, yeah,
"I
yeah,
am the patron saint of mediocrity.
yeah.
I'll like I'll forgive the So they're looking at mediocrity as a sin, and they're looking at it as like, if you're not great, you are sinning. And
Hmm.
Salieri was really insulted by how great God made Mozart. So
Yeah.
but right now it's actually kind of crazy how we as a society we as a society went into like not accepting mediocrity into the present day of encouraging mediocrity. So
Yeah.
it's really crazy on that. That's on like the societal level, but I think on the personal level, on why do we settle for mediocrity, is like there's really, looking at the programs on Ascend and many things, of people are afraid. They're doubting themselves. Can I really change? Can I really become
Yeah.
greater? I'm used to this. I'm used to being a slob or something. Well, for me, I have this before, well, even now, I think I have this kind of fear of failure. So that fear of failure drives me to do something like greater, but it also drives me to be mediocre. It's like, okay, if I don't do something risky and great, I won't fail. So I'll just settle for this. I mean, I'll just settle for this type of numbers instead of pushing myself to get that type of big results or become really great. So I think there is also a like environmental level of why mediocrity arise, but there's also this level of, internal conflict, I would call it, of self-doubt, fear, and fear of failing. So I think it goes both ways, so internal and
Yeah.
external.
Hey, just a quick interruption to tell you about the 40-day High Noon Challenge. If you're trying to find a way to start living a high noon life today with no shadows and create a radiant blessing, then this simple challenge is for you. We will send you daily lessons from our team that will keep you motivated on your journey. It's totally free, guys, and you'll get constant content directly to you. Just sign up today at highnoon.org/challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it also matters. I really like that idea that I think you're saying, Andranik, that this is not to bash office workers. It has nothing to do with your vocation, actually, because there's a lot of people that just want to work to have something stable, to support their situation, to support their family, and that's fantastic, actually. That doesn't necessarily equate to mediocrity. It's your motivation for doing it, because if you could be the best police officer or the best officer, like how much better would our society be if we had really enthusiastic people working in the DMV, the where you get your driver's license and all, where the most miserable people usually work, like, oh my God, or the post office. Yesterday, out here, I was in the post office here in Vietnam yesterday, and I was just laughing because it's just terrible everywhere in the world that you go. Like, it's just that job attracts just mediocrity to an nth degree. But there's definitely there's a heavenly way of striving for stuff, and then there's also the needy way, the TikTok way, the social media way, where like I want to be a celebrity so that I can be celebrated, so that people can love me, and it's actually out of a fear of not belonging. And so there's what I'm saying is you can want to strive for greatness for bad reasons, and you'll never be happy. And you can also like do something that doesn't look flashy, like work in an office, but do it and refuse to be mediocre at that, to be exceptional at whatever you do and be fulfilled. I knew one guy who was a dad who he was in car sales, and he was making quite a bit of money, but he would have regular discussions with his kids and said, look, this business that I'm in can go sideways at any time, and I'm ready to start working as a greeter at Walmart, and I'll be the best greeter in the world, and I'll rise to somebody who stocks the shelves, and within a short while I'll do that so well that they'll bump me up to management, and I'll just climb, because like I'll do whatever it takes to be great, to provide for you guys, right? And I think that's such a great framework, because we equate greatness with celebrity, with fame, with money or whatever, and that's not what this is about, right? But I also want to get into what you're talking about, Jude. You talk about the Ascend course, because I want to tie in porn usage, masturbation, sexual deviance with mediocrity, because I think this is so important for people to understand how it's connected. And this is kind of where the conversation arose from Andranik's Ascend group, right? So what do you guys have to say about that? Like, how do you think mediocrity plays into sexuality and porn in general? Have you thought about that?
I think going back to the first thing that I said, we humans was given this like divine drive to pursue greater things, especially when the first thing we're talking about is men, especially men, is when again God gave us this divine drive to pursue greater things. I think one of the things is to really, one thing is provide for the partner and have a good marriage and have a good like rich sense of love for our partner, and tying in pornography and masturbation, that kind of tricks our mind or ourself that, okay, I'm sexually satisfied, I have a partner, I am satisfied already physically, so I won't strive to greater because I'm already getting this fake love in this state. So as I think that I mean pornography kind of cuts off or kind of cheats in a sense, cheats on our drive to pursue something greater, because we're already getting uh, that purpose where right now using pornography, but that type of uh, satisfaction of love is not really real. So it kind of tricks our mind and body and our spirit to settle for what we have now and be comfortable with what we have now so that
Yeah.
we don't strive for anything greater. So I think that in that, looking inwardly, um, and I was deep in that hole of pornography and masturbation, I never really had, I always felt bad, but I never really had the motivation to get out of it. Or I always felt bad, I felt empty after it, but I never really wanted to, I never really thought of um, being something greater in the context of a marriage or in a context of a uh, relationship. And I think it's because I'm already getting that sort of fake love, but I
Sure.
think my spirit realizes that it's fake love. So that's why it feels bad to do it. That's why it feels empty. And right now, and one thing also, yeah, one thing also that I thought of, because pornography and, like, masturbating is kind of an short and easy way to get that fake love. And as humans, I think we are hardwired to really work for something for when that is worth getting for, or work for something great. And that the putting pornography in that cycle kind of messes our whole uh, hardwiring in our brain and makes us more depressed, makes us more like less less likely to achieve something greater, less likely to be more I mean, it makes us comfortable in what we already have, which is not really that good if you're in a deep hole. So one type of that example is why I shaved my hair. I was telling this to Andrew and everybody who was questioning me. um, one thing is because I want to lose weight. So is your hair 10 pounds or something? No, no, no. It's like when I had my long hair, uh, it kind of hides the fat from my face. Long hair guys, who shout out. But it 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 kind of made me comfortable with how my body is and how my fat my body is getting, how heavy I'm getting. So I when I look at the mirror and I said, "Oh, this is not okay. This is like this is what the opposite of what I want because I'm getting comfortable in being unhealthy." So one thing that I thought of is I'll make myself uncomfortable in in being healthy. So I shaved my head off. No, shaved my hair off, not head. I
Yeah, that's
shaved
an
my
important distinction.
I shaved my hair off because honestly I'm uncomfortable people seeing me like this. But one good thing that uh, if your head is shaved, it it highlights your face, and if your face is as big as mine, it doesn't really make a very handsome person. So it makes me uncomfortable, so it pushes me to lose more weight.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
It is. I want to swing back to what you were saying about uh, masturbation and about porn because um, people that I mean, it's definitely been proven that sex was always the reward in the past. It means that you got the lady. So in the wild in the wilderness, it's like you always have to fight to mate. You always have to do some sort of you have to fight another male or you have to fight the female. You got to do something in order to get that victory. And it was the same in in like the human reality up until porn came into play, where you always had to prove yourself. You had to do something. And in healthy relationships, it's the same actually. Sexuality, you have to grow internally. And now that you guys are blessed, I'm sure you understand this. In between sexual, like connecting with your spouse sexually, the only way that you can do that in a healthy way, where you're both very much into it and want each other, is only if you internally grow first. So the internal always precedes the external. Because if you're still fighting over the same stuff, then you don't want to touch each other. You're like, get away from me, you're frustrating me. And if you can't forgive each other and you didn't grow in that way, then you're still stuck and it's not a pleasurable experience. But if you actually in between making love grow in some way, then it's like a celebration. It's a coming together, literally and figuratively, of two people who are celebrating each other's internal victories, that I feel closer to you and I want to give myself to you, which is, to me, the whole purpose of the blessing is to create an environment where two people choose each other every single day. Like, I choose you. I could choose anybody else, but I choose you. Not because I have to, but because my heart, I want to give myself to you over and over again. But you know that that's not true every day, because there's fighting, there's, stuff like this. So in order to actually genuinely choose each other, you have to grow internally first. And then you celebrate externally through sex. And of course, that's not just an external experience, but it's how you show each other substantially that you're on the same page. And it's this beautiful thing. And porn gets in the way of all of that, because it skips the growth and it goes right to the reward. It's like having cake for breakfast and you didn't do anything yet. It's the worst breakfast you can have. So yeah, porn undermines any possible growth, which is why it feels rotten, because you're stuck, but you got the victory and you didn't deserve that victory.
Yeah, so it's a shortcut in essence. It's
a shortcut to unhappiness.
Yeah, exactly.
The cheat code.
Yeah. It's now my second quarter with Ascend, and I can see this as a recurring pattern, that maybe pornography starts out as a novelty, as I don't know, something new, something interesting. Very quickly it turns into complacency, and we just had this week, actually, or this past week, the topic of the week was justification.
Yeah.
And I felt that so much. Like, it's pornography use, masturbation, that happens through justification, not through being authentic and courageous and a person of integrity who, you elaborated here, who strives for the things that cost a lot in terms of effort, like a happy marriage, but who takes just shortcuts into quick gratification. But that does not come without a cost. That just doesn't. And the sooner anyone can understand and realize that this is coming with a cost, and this cost is actually incredibly huge, it's making me a terrible person. It's making me a person that's settling, that's kind of conforming and falling in on himself, and destroying my characters, destroying my spirit, it's destroying my ambitions, it's destroying my capacity for future fulfillment in a relationship. The sooner that can be realized, I think the picture becomes clear, and the choice then of what to do also becomes clear. But it's the fogginess that we stay in that keeps us, I think, trapped, and need to get rid of that fogginess.
Yeah. So this is the fogginess. What you're talking about is like, I read a study that within 2 or 3 weeks you can get used to any environment, right? So If you go to a new place, it takes about 2 or 3 weeks to feel like adapted to that place. And it could be hot climate, cold climate, new country, different language. I've really tested that because I travel a lot, and it's very much true. But so, for example, I live very close to a beach, and it's a local beach. Just a mile down that way is like a tourist beach, and it's immaculate. Like perfect sand, perfect waves, perfect ocean. On our beach, we live by all the locals. It's where all the garbage washes up, right? And it's so disgusting. You know, they do clean it up every now and again, but today I was out there in the morning, and there were styrofoam boxes that washed up, like all plastic, just all sorts of nasty stuff was washing up. And if I'm not careful, I could just get used to that, right? But through my life of prayer, through connecting with God, through remembering what this is supposed to look like and what it looks like naturally without our human intervention of destroying it, then I can, like, if you stop being sensitive to the fact that this is heartbreaking to God and to nature and to the fish that live in this place, we're ruining their home. Like, I will always be uncomfortable so long as I take care of myself and my perspective. And same with, some people will be comfortable in their own misery because they're not sensitive to what their life could be like, because they're not having enough conversations with people who can remind them of what life could be, right? Somebody who's living a life that's very robust and fulfilling and bright, they're living in the high noon light. But also having that relationship with God, that God can stir that up in you, spirit world can stir that up in you to be like, oh man, this is not what my life is meant to be like, so that you can feel uncomfortable in your misery, so that you can get enough motivation to get out of it. Because that's a very dangerous place to be, is comfortably miserable. I don't know if you've seen that cat poo lady online. Have you seen that? It's the nastiest thing I've ever seen. It's a lady who won't throw out her cat poo, and her whole house is just cat poo everywhere. And she walks on a mountain of garbage and cat poo. And it is the most, like, disgusting, like, thing externally. But if you think about the metaphor of us having cat poo in our minds, that's porn. Cat poo in our relationships is like resentment that we have for anybody. We're living like that. It's disgusting when we see it outside. It's like, oh my God, that's disturbing. But we live like that, and we carry that stuff around because we're comfortable. Unless we're sensitive to God, and unless we have good perspective from good conversations, we become comfortable living disgusting lives. And that's like, when we let hate anywhere near us, it's like, inviting a guy in with a knife and he's covered in blood is like, hey man, I just killed somebody. Can I come in your house? Like, no, get out. What are you? I'm calling the cops, right? But yet we let these thoughts into our minds, murderous thoughts, angry thoughts, resentful thoughts, all this stuff. It's in our minds, it's in our hearts, it's in our spirits. And the only way you get it out is through conversing with other people who are alive, to remember what life is like, and to pray, and to dig into the word, so that it creates that spark of life in you, and you're like, man, I've been asleep at the wheel. I need to wake up. And nobody can do that for you, because some people are like, just watch another motivational video on YouTube. That doesn't do it. You gotta do the work. You gotta dig inward. You can catch it a little bit from somebody who is alive, but even that spark doesn't ignite into a flame unless you nurture it and unless you do something with it. And that's the internal work. And it's frustrating for us, right, as leaders and as caregivers, because you can see somebody and they know that they're miserable, but they just don't care enough that they're miserable to do anything about it. And it's really hard to watch. That's the difficult part about this work, and working with addicts of any kind, is because some people are really like, yeah, my life is falling apart, but I guess I'll fix it tomorrow. And like, oh, please don't do this to yourself. But they have to do it themselves.
Yeah, I think the critical part of that is actually overcoming the situation. Going back to the subject of, like, being mediocre. Mediocre is being comfortable with the miserable situation of having cat poop in your house. but
It's a great
but I think
metaphor, man.
yeah, it's a great metaphor. I'll use it. but but I think like greatness in order to do something great, I really think that it requires adversity. It requires something facing very difficult situations and going back to like for what pornography does is it gives us an escape to just hide in our room from the cat poops, ignore
Yeah.
ignore the bad things. Like I always look at my Ascend group right now, and they're like, I'm especially on on the brothers that really have very difficult situations. Um, they don't know why they run to pornography, but when we talk it out, like on one-on-one mentoring sessions, they usually say, it's because I don't like my life, but I don't want to do anything anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything to fix it.
Yeah.
So they use porn as an escape.
Sure.
But the ending is like after pornography, after the escape, you still have to deal with dozens of a mountain of cat poop in your house. So that's a really negative effect of what porn does to especially brothers. Because we as brothers, I think in a household, it has to be, we have to help each other, but a brother must support uh, his wife in the difficult situations, especially um, in the very difficult situations where everything is like against you. A brother should be strong. I mean, a husband should be strong to lead the flock, to lead the flock or to lead the household. And if a person is in that hole of pornography and masturbation, he won't really face that adversity with much strength as he could have without porn. Or it, it basically destroys not only uh, our will to overcome adversities, but also destroys the future of our families and because just to escape, yeah. So it'll just run to okay, we don't have rent, we don't have electricity. Okay, I'll just go to porn. So
Yeah.
it gives us an escape. So that's very problematic in the future.
Yeah.
Well, very
Well,
much so.
you know what you need to overcome challenges? There's a list of these 5 very nice virtues that are really helpful in terms of like orienting yourself in life and being a useful person.
Yeah.
The high noon 5 virtues, right? Porn is the opposite of that. Like participating in watching pornography, masturbating, that robs you of those virtues. It's very clear. It's super
Yeah.
clear. We don't need to do scientific research on that. It's clear. Anyone who's just, I don't know, masturbated does not come out of that with courage, does not feel like they're a person of integrity. They are really far away from grace. They are not receptive to grace. They think like that they're the most trash person ever probably in that moment.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's it's basically a kind of poison, right?
Uh-huh.
That robs you of any kind of ability to make something better of your life. And yeah, it's a sad situation.
Well, ultimately, you're betraying your dreams, right? And that just hurts. If you have clear values, and we use 5 virtues because I really feel like values have been used by some very sketchy people. But virtues are things that you champion, things that you like. I want this in my life, and what I noticed. So we had this conversation last night in one of my groups. Is so honesty, like the idea of feeling liberated. You want the experience of liberation. When you're holding a heavy weight, you've made a mistake. You just wish you could stop feeling guilty, stop feeling ashamed of yourself, and you wish it could all just go away. Wishing doesn't do anything. it causes you to make further and further, like keep on digging, like in that earlier analogy. But then the quickest way is by being honest with somebody in your life, and receiving their grace is the only process of really being truly liberated for your mistakes. And so there is a clear process in a particular order for getting back to health and to stop settling for mediocrity, but it involves other people always. And people want to figure it out for themselves, but you can't. You need other people in order to get back to figuring out what it is that you want in life, and to allow yourself to get those things, right? So those virtues are important, but it's like a combination, right? Of, okay, in this situation, you need to allow yourself to have grace, and then you need to be honest, and then you'll receive grace, and this is like the ebb and flow. So I do agree. It's working out those muscles, but it's also recognizing that, you know, your body will tell you that you're sick way before you get sick. But most people just don't listen to their body, right? Oh, every time I eat this, I get indigestion. Stop eating that, right? I'll just keep on eating it. I knew this one girl, every time she would get migraine headaches every time she would drink alcohol. And I was like, maybe you shouldn't drink alcohol. She's like, no, I like it. It's like, well, your body sure doesn't, right? But, okay, whatever. We're getting these signs in our body. We're getting these signs in our heart. Hey, maybe I shouldn't hang out with this person because I get very depressed when I do. You need to start listening to those things in order to stop being mediocre. But those things are bringing you down. Settling for foods that make you sick, thoughts that make you depressed, or people that make you depressed, or whatever. You got to work all this out in order to... it's all slowly little things that are pulling you down. They all need to be healed. Doesn't mean you got to cut off all food and all friends and all that, but it's figuring out why they're bringing you down and resolving that, and so that you stop getting brought down. And porn is definitely a major factor in bringing you down. And you cannot just cut it out of your life and say everything's going to be okay. You have to figure out why you were going to porn and get it in its original form. It's all emotional based. You got to do the work. And where do they do that work, guys? Where's a good place for them to work on their sexual integrity? Do you know anywhere? Facebook.com? What is it? Amazon.org? What is it?
It's highnoon.org, yo.
Yo.
Yeah.
.org.
Yeah, there's no need to pretend that we can do it alone or by ourselves. I mean, it's our experience already. Many guys have gone through this of like saying, okay, now is the last time and I'll never do it again. And guess what? And then they do it again. Because doing things just alone and without help and support, without even practicing what Andrew was just saying here, this process of honesty and receiving grace, without this aspect, I don't know even if 1% of people can overcome pornography just by themselves, just sheer out of their own will. I decided today is the last day, and from now I will never do it again, and then they actually never do it again. I'm not sure if anyone can actually do it that way, even though we'd like to, because then actually that's also kind of a comfortable way. No one needs to know about our past, no one needs to know about our shadows, and we can leave that behind. And it would be great if it worked like that. It doesn't. The way that we get into it is through hiding, through shadows, through hiding, through isolation. The antidote is naturally the opposite, and it's just the way it works. And High Noon, I really believe, is the place for that. I've seen it in my past quarter. It's 90 days. Ascend is 90 days, and people get like, oh my God, it's 90 days online program. I'm not sure if I can do that. Well, listen, like, what's important? What's important to you, right? And I've seen it. Okay, for the 80 days of that, it was hard and nothing seemed to be working, and it wasn't clear what's really the way out. Okay, we went through all these materials and everything, but it was the 85th day or whatever where something clicked and the process of healing could start. For everyone, it's a different journey, but I think joining a program on High Noon, it's for us in this church community, it's amazing that this resource exists. It's amazing that this organization exists. These people exist who give their time freely to help others to come out of this, and that there's a whole tool set, there's a whole curriculum, there's a whole system built up of how to do this well, how to help people well. I really believe in this, and I think everyone should join a High Noon program, not only when they're struggling, but as preventative work, as maintenance. I had a guy last quarter who joined just to maintain, like he was healthy. He was actually doing really well. He just joined just because to keep it up, and that was great for him. I really saw how great that was for him. So, yeah.
Yeah. And if you are single and you don't struggle with porn, we also have the Core program, which will be launching, I hear, worldwide soon. And if you're a couple who wants to stay very far away from mediocrity, join the Radiant program. In order to, like, do you want to go to the gym because your doctor says you're going to die if you don't? Or do you want to just get really fit so that you can play with your kids, and when you want to see a bus, you can catch the bus without breaking a sweat because you're in good shape, right? That's just there's so many side benefits to being healthy. Why not just be healthy? Why wait until you're in a crisis to join the gym? Same thing with your sexual integrity.
Yeah.
Any last words, Jude?
Yeah, and people often choose restoration even though it's very difficult, and they just don't go to the to the straight path. When we were fundraising, people usually, for example, we have a goal of 1,000 peso, and if you did 900 peso, you will do like a condition for the other 100 peso. And the people would often choose the condition instead of doing the goals. And it's very hard. It's either 100 minutes reading, 100 minutes, 100 full bow, 100 minutes prayer, etc. And people would always choose the restoration. And my captain always says, "Why do you choose restoration? Just not, you don't hit your goal." And doing ascend and joining any high noon programs is like hitting that goal. But when everything is already like in an emergency state, or in a like not hitting that goal state, if you join it, yeah, you will be good, but it's much harder, but it'll be more difficult too. So this is what I have noticed also. But
Yeah.
you know, it's difficult because, like I said a while ago, greatness requires adversity, but it's difficult because you will be great afterwards. It's difficult because you will become a greater person afterwards. You will become a changed person, and it's not just one person that's helping you. This High Noon is a whole community of international people, black, white, yellow, red. I hope I'm not being racist, but but just imagine those types of people from across the world loving you makes everything, although difficult, makes everything worth it. And the most important thing is that they give you this, if you're lost, they give you this vision of being that great person that God wants you to be. And the key is joining a High Noon program.
Sweet. Good sales tactic, guys. I like it. Yeah. So, mediocrity is bullcrap. Find out where in your life you're settling and look at the consequences at scale of if you just keep on living like that, where does that lead? And what do you miss out on? What's the opportunity cost? But also, what is accumulating, right? There's stuff that accumulates. That cat poo, it accumulates in your mind, in your heart, in your relationships. And High Noon is not about being perfect. It never is, and it never will be about being perfect. It's about continually clarifying what are your ideals and never settling for giving up on your ideals, always working towards them and doing it together with other people. So part of that is figuring out where you're completely not living up to your ideals, and we can help you get there. So great call. Thank you guys for this session, and thank you all for listening. We will see you in your local village. I don't know what that means. I'll see you when we see you. Take care. Say bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Philippines #1.
Hey, did you know that our team wants to do more events? Well, if you want to bring the High Noon message to your community or group, then let us know and we'll try to work something out. There's a simple application that you can fill out right now at highnoon.org/invite, and one of our team members will get back to you to see what's possible. That's highnoon.org/invite. All right, see you in the next episode.